With Season 2 having started today, I figured now would be a good time to ease you into some Shield Hero content. The last bit of cut content from Season 1, as well as a reminder of where we left off for Season 2. It's not anywhere near as long as my other videos, but it does highlight what to expect from my channel starting next week. So if you are new to this channel and what I do, then feel free to sub for more content on what the anime missed from the novels. Now, starting with a quick refresher, the last thing that happened was the battle between now Fumi and these otherworlders, heroes from another world who were fighting to ensure the safety of their own. The exact reason for their aggression wasn't entirely known, but unless they were defeated, then the waves wouldn't have ended. So, after a long drawn-out battle between mainly now Fumi and Glass, it was now Fumi who would eventually come out on top, leading to the inevitable retreat of these three mysterious vassal wielders. Now, despite now Fumi being unsure as to why they were attacking him, he was able to come up with a few reasonable theories. The first being that Glass and the others were actually trying to invade them. If you considered the monsters to be their soldiers, then it was plausible to assume that this was their intention. The only problem is that it didn't really explain why Lark had fought to defeat the monsters with them. It also didn't explain why they wanted the heroes to be dead either. As for the second theory, well, this was more of an open-ended assumption that there was something to gain. Since killing the heroes was their primary goal, it stands to reason that Glass and the others were going to benefit from it. So if we take that assumption and consider it to be true, then the next questions that need to be answered are how and why. How exactly was Glass going to benefit from killing him and the other heroes, and why was doing so important to them? Now, the third and final theory now Fumi had come up with was actually based on a bit of information that Vittoria had given him. Remember, she had once said that if all the heroes were to die, then the only thing that would lead to was the world's destruction. The heroes were the only thing preventing the waves from causing the apocalypse. So, when taking that potential outcome into consideration, then it wouldn't be unreasonable to assume that this was why Glass was trying to eliminate them. Perhaps the end of this world was what they really wanted. Perhaps killing the heroes was just a means to something bigger. Regardless, there was no way to truly know what they were up to. The only thing now Fumi could focus on now was simply how they were going to stop them next time. A feat he knew would require the assistance of all the heroes. The main problem with that though is that the other heroes weren't very strong at all. As they were now, they were really only a little bit more powerful than your typical adventurer. And that's only because they have access to special skills that normal people don't. So, with that being the only thing giving them an edge, that meant the only thing they were good for were short bursts of immediate attacks. An approach to combat you definitely couldn't equate to being powerful. I mean, even Philo and Raftalia were far stronger due to the class-up ceremony. Their ability to go toe-to-toe against Lark and Tlis only further proved that they were far more capable. So, it was very clear that the biggest problem now was their lack of strength. It didn't matter how powerful now Fumi ended up becoming, since at the end of the day all he could really do was fight to protect. He just didn't possess the offensive power to go along with his oppressive defenses. If the other heroes were to eventually reach his same level though, then there was no doubt that they'd be able to hold off Glass or any other enemy. There was just so much potential remaining for the other three heroes to unlock and fight with. Now Fumi was currently only at about 20%, but the other three probably weren't even halfway there yet. Like, now Fumi had just gotten to the point where he felt he was strong enough to withstand the Pope's powerful attacks. So, if the Queen was correct when saying his replica weapon possessed less than a quarter of the power of the real ones, then that meant that all four of them still had quite a ways to go. It was for this reason that now Fumi knew they needed to work together. Not only were they the only ones who could truly help him surpass his offensive limitations, but it would just make surviving the waves that much easier, especially with the types of enemies only getting stronger. Now, that's not to say Raftalia and Philo aren't strong enough to fill that gap, but it's more so that the scope of the threat has become way too much for just the two of them. Now Fumi understood that if he wanted to go any further, then what he needed most was to find more people to add to his party. He knew he needed help if he was going to get stronger himself. The main reason he wasn't simply willing to accept anyone though is that he was still trying to get over his own personal trauma. You see, now Fumi feared that if he was to increase the size of his party, then it would only serve to increase the chances of him getting betrayed again, something he was willing to do anything to avoid. So, before he could go out and start sending invitations, now Fumi first needed to find someone that he could trust. Someone that wasn't going to betray them like how Lark and Tlis did. Although these two were previously at the top of his list, The mistake he'd made with them was that he'd trusted them far too quickly. He allowed their friendly nature to make him become complacent, a lapse in judgment he wasn't planning to make a third time. That being the case, you're probably wondering why he was so willing to let Alicia in then. I mean, in the anime it didn't take very much for her to become a fully fledged party member. Well, the reason for that is actually due to a shift in events that accelerated her story arc. There's quite a bit that happens before which better demonstrates how exactly Alicia ended up here. And though that may seem like cut content for now, I do believe it's something that we'll get to see in the first few episodes of Season 2. The clips from the trailer had quite a heavy emphasis on her character. So despite this whole encounter being a slight jump ahead from where it should have been, it's likely we'll still get to see the entirety of her backstory anyway. They probably just wanted to demonstrate Naofumi's willingness to add new members first. Now, as for the last few minutes from Raphtalia's village, well, this actually doesn't take place until Volume 10, a whole 5 novels ahead from where we are now. So, with all that not being relevant for a while, the main thing you need to focus on then is how Naofumi and the others plan to get stronger. That's the core aspect of Season 1 that will be brought into this next one. But yeah, that's pretty much where we're at for Season 2. If you've already watched Episode 1 of the new season, then be sure to let me know what you thought of it down in the comments. You can expect the cut content for that to come out next week. Until then though, as always, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this type of anime content, then you already know what to do. So, until next time, ciao!